Hi, welcome to Yard GrowingSA. In today's video I'll be showing you 20 vegetables and herbs you can start in August. Let's get to it. So beetroot like to be soaked in water a night before. This is a beetroot pod, and inside the pod there is 2 to 4 seeds. So beetroot like to be buried 2 to 3 centimeters deep. They'll take 7 to 10 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 8 to 10 weeks. Peas, so peas like to be buried 2 to 3 centimeters deep. So I'm starting a new batch now. So every 2 to 3 weeks, if you want as many peas as you can, then you just start a new batch and then it will constantly rotate. Peas will take 6 to 17 days to germinate, and they are best to directly sow them. They do much better when you directly sow than transplant them. And they'll be ready to harvest in 60 to 70 days. So this one here is about like 10 to 15 days old now. And if your plant is this small and it's growing flowers, you want to pull them off so that the plant can focus on growing the plant bigger than focusing on the vegetables. For me, the ideal size for peas is about 50 to 60 centimeters, but you can go longer. So if you wanted to grow longer, you're constantly gonna have to keep an eye on it and pull the flowers off. Sweet corn. So this is the Star F1 hybrid sweet corn. So I'm gonna plant 18 of them over here, and they like to be buried 2 to 3 centimeters deep. And they will be ready to harvest in about 90 days. Radish. So radish like to be buried 1 to 2 centimeters deep, and they'll take 3 to 10 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 4 to 6 weeks. This is white radish. This is white icicles. So all radish is kind of the same, but they all have different harvesting time. Like with this one's want to be grown deeper. So this is more like a carrot size, so it's longer. So this will take about 6 to 8 weeks to germinate. So this will take about 6 to 8 weeks for harvesting time. Celery. So there's 3 types of celery. The one I'm showing you right now is pink celery. And I'm going to show you the soup celery and then the normal celery. So celery like to be buried a half a centimeter to a centimeter deep. And I found a better way to germinate them. So what you want to do is get a cloth or old sweater, old material, but it must be clean obviously. You put your seeds on there, you make it damp. You get a Ziploc bag, you put it in a Ziploc bag, and for 2 weeks you put it in your fridge, and then that is how they will germinate faster, because it does take 14 to 21 days to germinate the celery. And this is the soup celery over here. So it will take 12 to 17 weeks to germinate, so you can pull the whole thing out. But if you don't want to pull the whole thing out like I do, is pull the sideways, leave the middle, and it will regrow again. Then it's gonna take about like 6 to 10 weeks. Bell pepper. So bell pepper like to bury 2 to 3 centimeters deep, and it'll take 7 to 14 days to germinate. And the fruits, once it starts, it should be ready to harvest in 60 to 90 days. So obviously, as you can see, it was winter, most of the leaves fell off, but like they say, spring is on its way, so all the things are gonna spring back to life. Chilies. So you can start all your hot chilies now. Your chilies like to be buried 1 to 3 centimeters deep, and they'll take 7 to 21 days to germinate. So when you do germinate your chilies, you want them in a hot area. So if you have a heat mat, that will help much better. So, but if you don't have a heat mat, try to keep them in the sun all the time, but also keep your soil moist all the time. So it is best you start them in trays than in ground. So chilies you can harvest actually whenever you think it's ready to be eaten. So I don't have an actual time how long it takes, because each chili tree takes different amount of times to produce their vegetables. So yeah. So this will be ideal size, or you can wait till it's red. So Swiss chard like to be buried 2 to 3 centimeters deep, and we want to soak them overnight. They'll take 7 to 14 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 70 to 80 days. And when you do harvest them, you pull out the bigger leaves around them and leave the smaller center leaves, and then they will constantly grow, and then that's how you will have a harvest over many months. Turnips like to be buried 1 to 2 centimeters deep, and they'll be ready to germinate in 7 to 14 days, and you can harvest them in 8 to 11 weeks. So here's one over here, it's a bigger one over there, and all the rest is starting to pop out now. Lettuce. So lettuce like to be buried half a centimeter to a centimeter deep, and I know this don't look like the best lettuce because there was a mouse at the tops of the plants, but anyways, lettuce is gonna take 7 to 14 days to germinate, and like all leafy greens, you can harvest as it grows, but it will be finished in 4 to 10 weeks. Kale. So kale like to be buried 1 to 2 centimeters deep, and they'll take 6 to 12 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 7 to 10 weeks. Onions. So this is red onions, but this goes for all onions. They'll like to be buried 1 to 2 centimeters deep. They'll take 7 to 10 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 4 to 6 months. But with onions, obviously you can use it from the day they germinate. Like you see how small is this one, you can use that as chives, you can use this as leeks or whatever. Okay, not leeks, but I'm just saying you can use them at any stage of their growing form. Tomatoes like to be buried 1 to 2 centimeters deep, and they'll take 10 to 14 days to germinate, and depending on what tomato you are growing, it will take 65 to 80 days to harvest, but the harvesting time starts once the flowers begin. Carrots. So before you plant your carrots, you're gonna have to make sure your soil does not have a lot of debris like rocks and thick sticks. So let's check this first out before we plant our carrots. Okay, so I can already see there's a stone in here and there, so let's just mix it around and see. You do one nice and soft fluffy type of soil, so it will be easier for the carrots to grow down in. You see, this isn't a rock, this is just a piece of wood. On that out as well, or else your carrot isn't gonna grow so nice, and it's gonna have that twist and turn, and it's gonna split open while it grows, and then or the rock will just, or the stone or rock, whatever it is, just gonna block it from growing any further. So take so 5 to 6 centimeters down just to check. But if you're growing in ground and that, and you don't want to do that, that's also fine. Just add maybe a layer of compost or potting soil on top, and then you grow it in there, depending how big you want the carrots to grow. So okay, so I'll be back once I'm finished finding as much stones as I can on top. Okay, so this is most of it cut, and most of it was in here. There was like 1 or 2 in this one. So what I'm gonna do is, in this one over here, I'm just gonna sprinkle the carrot seeds, and in this one I'm gonna make it into a circle, like a spiral. Okay, so that was the worst circle I ever seen in my life, and the other side I'm gonna do here, I'm just gonna sprinkle it here. They like to be buried 1 to 2 centimeters deep, and so I didn't make anything, so I'm just gonna put cocoa peat on top of here now. And cocoa peat isn't so heavy, so the seedlings will have an easier time to germinate through it too. And then to cover them up, you can put cardboard on top of it, or you can take planks and just cover it up, because they do need to stay moist for the time before they germinate. So they're gonna take 14 to 21 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 12 to 16 weeks. So rocket likes to be buried a half a centimeter to a centimeter deep. They'll take 10 to 14 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 30 to 45 days. But like with all leafy greens, you can always just take from the sides, leave the center, and they will continuously grow. And this one is busy going to seed, that's why it is so big. Watermelon. So watermelon like to be buried 2 to 3 centimeters deep, and they were ready to germinate in 10 to 14 days, and you can harvest them in 11 to 17 weeks. I'm just gonna plant 6 of them over here. So sweet melon like to be buried 2 to 3 centimeters down. So I'm gonna be planting 2 in each one over here. And it takes 7 to 14 days to germinate, and will be ready to harvest in 14 to 17 weeks. And I made sticks so I know which one is which. Bush beans. So beans like to be buried 2 to 3 centimeters down. They will take 6 to 10 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 7 to 10 weeks. Cucumber, this is poinsettia, so they want to be buried 2 to 3 centimeters deep, and they'll take 10 to 14 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 8 to 10 weeks. So I'm just going to put 2 in each one. Brinjal, that will be buried 1 to 2 centimeters deep. They'll take 10 to 14 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to harvest in 11 to 12 weeks. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, could you please leave a like? If you're new to the channel, could you subscribe please? I'd like to say thank you for all the ones that subscribe and always come back to see my videos. And if you'd like to help out the video, you can comment down below, share the video, like the video, become a member, or send super thanks. Thank you for watching. Backyard out.